So good morning, class.
Good morning.
You know, don't get picky. I have enough to worry about remembering besides whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or morning again before you go to sleep. How many people here, I just need to get a concept of who I'm talking to so I know what direction I'm going. How many people here have already read the book, The Reconnection? Have read it? So how many have not? Good. The reason I'm asking that is because there are some people that didn't raise their hands and you never know what's going on. How many of you didn't raise your hands? What I'll do is I'm going to give you a little background of how this happened. And then we're going to talk about some of the insights into how we can access this work. The background is that I was a doctor of chiropractic, but I still am. And somewhere in my 12th year of practice, a few strange things happened. The lamp next to my bed turned itself on and woke me up. I felt the presence of someone in my house, which is a very uncomfortable feeling. So I got up bravely with a can of pepper spray, a knife, and my Doberman pinscher, and I went hunting. I couldn't really find anyone, so I talked myself into thinking that it must be my imagination, and I went back to sleep. But that Monday when I went into my office, 7 of my patients, independently of one another, told me that they felt someone in the room with us, just the way I felt people in my house. Some of my patients said they felt someone standing, some said they felt someone walking around, others said they felt someone flying around the ceiling. Some of these patients have been patients of mine for 10 years or longer. No one had ever said that to me before. So 7 people in one day, you would think that this would have gotten my attention. But other patients at the same time were saying, I can feel your hands before you touch me. I'm thinking, yeah, sure, you can. Close your eyes. So they closed their eyes and I hold my hands in different places. And they could tell me right shoulder, left ankle, so it sort of became a game because it was my office and I could have whatever games I wanted. Get your own office. And this makes me crazy. I'm sure the feng shui people are freaking out. You know, that access this level of healing. It's funny. To access this level of healing, we must transcend our fears and our fear-based approaches to things. Feng shui is a beautiful thing when it's used in the concept of basic feeling and energetic, and the brilliance of its intrinsic common sense. Feng shui is equally damaging when it comes from fear. You know, put a little mirror up over your toilet so when you flush your toilet, you don't flush down your prosperity. Is that coming from love, prosperity, and abundance, or fear, lack, and limitation? Of course it's coming from fear. You know, make sure that, you know, you've got the shades up this high so that the bad energy doesn't get out a funny way or something. That's coming from fear. And really, if we stand in fear, we can't facilitate healing. It comes from love. Getting funny sound.
Yeah, close to the speaker.
But then, oh, I'm too close to the speaker?
This one.
Oh, okay. That's good. Nice shoes. Like the color. I like that. I do. No, I'm a purple person. But is that a message for me that you're walking with? Thank you very much for that. I made myself promise that I would close this so I don't get a lot of that sound in the recording thing. There we go. We'll see if this helps any. How's it sound? We're there? We're good? Good. So I'll go there next. But here, now we're not talking about superstitious fears, are we? We're talking about ouch. And so it would be wise feng shui to not have this in your home if this was your floor height. When you walk into a beautifully feng shui home, the energy feels excellent and it's beautiful because of the style. When you walk into a home that's been feng shui from fear, it doesn't feel so beautiful on the inside. It's rarely the action that we take. Don't worry, I don't know where I'm going with this conversation yet either. I just started to follow my mouth. It's rarely the action that we take as much as it is the consciousness with which we take that action. We're going to come back to this. I want to complete that first segment part of it. So
Walk down here and they can see you all through.
I could walk down.
Yeah, and it's softer too.
Oh, is this all right?
Yes, much better.
Now, that is a true feng shui master. I didn't know I could because of the cameras. I didn't want to play. Okay, so I'm playing with this. People can feel where my hands are. As I play, their feet start to move involuntarily, or their fingers, tiny, tiny, tiny little muscles move around the face and the eyebrow, muscles we could not move intentionally. When they would open their eyes, they would tell me they were seeing colors that they had never seen before, but they would tell me what the colors were. It was just beautiful violet colors, and they would have lights shining either from behind them or through them. And I would say, well, how can you tell me what the color is if you've never seen it before? They said, I don't know how to explain it. And they started reporting healings, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs. Vision and hearing was returning for a lot of people. They were coming in showing me laboratory results where their cancers had disappeared. They had gone in the next day for their surgery and the tumor was gone. Children with cerebral palsy and epilepsy were able to walk and run and play again normally and speak normally, not have seizures any longer. No, not every one of them. Nothing is 100%. Just like medicine, nothing is 100%. Let's keep our perspective. You take 2 aspirin, you take 2 aspirin, you take 2 aspirin, your headache goes away, yours doesn't, but your stomach bleeds and you get Ray's syndrome. Nothing is 100%. But a significant number of people were consistently having healings. Enough so that we knew that something significant, I should say a consistent number of people were having healings, a way that we knew that something significant, something real was going on. As word got out, people started saying, teach this. And I said, teach it, you gotta be crazy. I don't know how to teach it. I'm standing there with my hands in the air looking like a fool. Go outside, wave your hands in the air, let me know what your neighbors think. You know, you can come with an instruction book here. But more and more of my patients would call me and say when they got home from my office, they drove up to their house and before they could touch the automatic garage door opener, the garage door opened, or they walked inside, their lamp or their TV turned itself off or on, they felt sensations in their hands, they would hold their hands by someone in the family, and suddenly the grandmother was able to speak again after the stroke, or the uncle regained the use of an arm or leg. Somehow or other we began to recognize that once we interact, once you interact with this, what science refers to as the reconnected healing spectrum, broad, endless so far from what we can determine, spectrum of energy, light, and healing, something changes within us, and we are able not only to receive and accept our own healings, we are able to facilitate these healings for others. Now, most of these people who are reporting these stories have not been involved in healing before. So they weren't approaching it from fear. They didn't set up little bowls of salt water next to them to shake their hands off into, and then little spray bottles of alcohol to clear out the nose. They didn't approach it from fear. They didn't approach it from ego. And yet they were bringing about healings that seemed pretty foreign, not just to the energy healing world. See, this is a difficult concept for some people, because we're here to change. We are here to change. This is a difficult concept for some people. The only difficulty is that we have to face our own ego. Not that we shouldn't be without ego. Lord knows, I've got mine, we all have ours. Ego is not a mistake of God. God wasn't working over the creation of the human being, accidentally dropped something in and went, oops. Now I'll never get that sucker out. The ego is a constantly vigilant, aware teacher when we're too little, when we're too much, when we're not striving to do a good enough job, when we're striving for our balance and our excellence, when we're overdoing. It's not a mistake. It's a mistake when we allow it to lead. So these people were discovering these healings. It's not coming from being a master, or a grandmaster, or a great-grandmaster. Just from discovering them. And yet the people, the few who already were healing practitioners, I didn't really know about who was and who wasn't, because I was a chiropractor doctor, I wasn't asking questions like that. They came in and they started saying that whatever they had been doing with their healing, they were doing the same thing, but their healings don't. Something changes within us. What we're here to step into today is a tapestry that expands upon what we've already had. It's not different in meaning that it's not different in the way of saying what we've had has been this and this has been that. This tapestry is so comprehensive, it's so all-inclusive, that everything that we've had is just one part of it. Just one part of it. And there's more. Now, oddly enough, yesterday I wandered into the only session that I listened to. I was busy doing interviews and other things. And I decided to go in and listen to it again today, and it was perfect. It was just fine. I had not listened to Gary Zukav speaking since I used to listen to him in early 2000s, shall we say, when I was driving, because I can't read. My friends all tease me, I'm the only person who hasn't read their books. I listened to the tapes. They said, you know how much you missed? I said, no, thank God. So you worry about it. External power and authentic power. We have been allowing the healing world to feed us by pumping up our sense of external power. I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. And what I just heard today that hit me so clearly is that the universe is requires us at this point, if we're really going to grow, to step into our authentic power. We can't step into authentic power until we're willing to step out of fear. Now, how are we going to recognize fear? First, we have to look into the mirror, where we don't always like to look into the mirror. Because sometimes we've invested money into creating what's going to look out back at us from that mirror, and we're not so happy to let it go. It's not our fault the way we've been taught to do the healing work. But we have been taught this way. I'm going to be up here for a second. If you walk around events such as this, wandering through the aisles where they're selling you all of the different objects that you really don't need because they reinforce in you that you are less than 100% or need to be afraid of something, right? And then you find the teaching techniques. There's a new book I saw on the internet, something about what healers won't tell you. All the things that you should really be afraid of when you get a healing. What the hell is that? What the hell is, oh, hi. A company I didn't expect. What the hell is that? Stand around and listen to people talk about healing. And what do you hear? You drop this down this way. Thanks. You hear conversations that sound something like this. Well, when I walked into the healing room, I immediately saw where the blue and the purple and the aura was out of balance, and I saw an area of red, because I see auras, don't you know? Yes, I do. And I knew the red didn't belong, so I, in my infinite wisdom, using a technique that I was taught by a master who swore me to secrecy and then died, so you will never know this technique that I know, removed the area of red, and then I, in my infinite wisdom, came in and floated through and found where all of the energy was flowing freely, and then I found an area of congestion, and I, using another technique you'll never know, removed that area of congestion so everything flowed freely again. Aren't I wonderful? Now, maybe we don't say I. Oh, you know these people. Don't give them my number. Maybe we don't say I quite so strongly. Maybe we don't finish with aren't I wonderful in the Olympic stance. But maybe we should. Maybe we should, just so we start to listen to what we're saying and doing. Think about it. We're not that foolish, often. Sometimes we are, when it comes to the physical body. If you were playing football and you twisted your knee, what would happen? You'd have pain. There'd be heat, there'd be swelling, there'd be an alteration in function. What is that pain? The pain is the knee picking up the body's telephone system, calling up to the brain, saying, help, 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 there's damage down here. And the brain says, okay, I've got you covered. Going to send increased blood flow, change the direction of the blood flow, increase it, it's going to wash out the damage and the debris. This is all making me crazy, but I will ignore it because I'm learning. First day, be patient. God, be patient. The blood flow is going to wash away the damage. The damaged tissue, then there'll be new nutrients set in these fluids to limit the movement of the knee so that it doesn't damage itself. It will bathe in the nutrient fluids while the new cells come about. There'll be temperature changes, there'll be color changes as the tissue goes through the healing process. There'll be an outer perimeter of pain, so you decide to push through it. Your body reminds you, hey, knock it off. And when the whole thing is finished, the knee and the brain and their conversation say, thank you very much, goodbye, they hang up. And the healing has occurred. What is that? That is in the perfect intelligence of God, love, the universe, pick the word you're happiest with, demonstrating itself in the innate intelligence of the human body. What would not be so intelligent? It might not be so intelligent to take you, throw you down on this physical therapy table, take some artificial electrical current such as ultrasound or electrical stimulus and short circuit the phone call between the knee and the brain. So the knee is hollering, help, 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 and the brain hears, Then we inject it with painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and send you out on the playing field with a knee that is pain-free. With a knee that is pain-free but not healed. Maybe balancing on an ankle that's been pain-free for 2 years but not healed, so degenerating, and something else is going on with the low back, and now it's starting to talk to you again, but now it might be past really good healing spot. If we can understand the consciousness of what we're talking about here, the principle, the philosophy, the awareness, then the next question is the intelligence of the universe any less intelligent off the body than it is inside the body? In other words, when that energy healing technique practitioner comes in and rearranges the aura colors, gets rid of the red, rebalances the blue and the purple, what makes him or her feel that those changes in colors is any less intelligent than the change in color of the tissue while it's going through the healing process? When they come in and they change the spin of the chakras, the 6 chakras from clockwise to counterclockwise, what makes them think that the shift of the chakra spin is any less intelligent than the shift in the direction of the blood flow or the lymph glands while the healing process is going on? And when they find one area of density and congestion and they remove it, what makes them think this congestion or density is any less intelligent than the congestion and density in the knee caused by the fluids bathing it, protecting it, and allowing it to heal? In other words, what is this person really saying? And let's hear it with a human voice. What you're saying is, thanks a lot, God. Looks like you've done a pretty swell job with, I would say most of the universe up until now. But look, you missed these spots. Please allow me to fix them for you. By the way, here's my pink business card with the rainbows and the fairies. Please keep it on file. Call me anytime. Call me anytime I can be of help to you again in the near future. I would love to stay and chat, but I've just enough time to get home, email everyone I've ever known, and tell them what I have just accomplished for you, and still make it to the class that I'm teaching tonight on how to transcend your ego. By the way, God, you might want to call this always something for everyone to learn. Now this is going to just simply piss some of this off. I don't think that any of us have been placed here to not make a change. And sometimes a change requires us to look and think. Maybe it's time for us to transcend the doingness, the ego that wants to say, I've done this technique and that and the other, and allow ourselves to become the observer and the observed, the witness and the witness, the seer and the seen. And in that process, be rewarded, not from the ego of saying, look what I've accomplished, but from being privileged enough to truly witness the beauty and the perfection of the healing process, which gives us the gift of being in awe and allowing us to observe more, and we can ask more questions of ourselves to grow in the questioning process, because we're here to learn. That three of the most important words we can put together are, I don't know. And society has trained us to know. But when we know the answer, what happens? We stop learning right there. We stop. We say, this is right, so this is wrong. This is right, so this is wrong. But when we're willing to say, I don't know, we say, I don't know. However, I see this possibility. I don't know, but I can see that possibility over there. If I can put that potential together with that, with that, with that, I can come up with this or this or this, which appears to be better answers, but they're not. They're building blocks, the ones we need to allow us to continue to ask yet better and better questions. Philosophy is about the questions. Our growth and expansion comes in the observation and the questioning of all know, all the answers. All too soon. But here, we're here to ask questions. Our energy healing techniques have been like training wheels on a bicycle. Wonderful. But once your child has mastered the bicycle with training wheels, you know to take the training wheels off, or they'll never master the bicycle. You wouldn't let them add a second and a third and a fourth set of training wheels. Our energy healing techniques allow us to discover something. But the true gift of the technique comes only in its transcendence. The true gift of the technique is not the certificate we get for spending $250 for a level 217 Reiki course. Mastery comes only once we allow ourselves to transcend the very technique itself. It comes in our knowingness, not in our knowledge. We must see. You must see that you are a master. You must know that you are a master. In your seeing lies your knowingness, and that knowingness lies even more expanded vision, and in both lies our mastery. Let's play a little game. Is there, I might as well use it as a prop. Is there anyone here who has, I'm going to ask something specific, and I want you to answer the question I'm really asking, not the one you want me to be asking. Okay. Is there anyone here who maybe most of us used to be able to bring our hands straight out to the sides and up to maybe a midnight position? Anyone who used to be able to do that, but now maybe one arm just goes part way? You? Can you show me? Okay, so you sort of have a bend in that arm. What's that from? Dislocated when?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Now, why does the elbow bend? Bring both your arms. Can they go straight out like that? Now, if you keep them straight, how high does it climb? Not like that. When you get looked at, been to doctors, physical therapists?
Yeah.
Yeah? MRIs, X-rays, things like that. And what do they say?
Well, it's been
Now
operated.
you had surgery, and that's still as high as it goes. Are there like pins in there locking it in or anything?
They took a tendon from the back.
Took a tendon from the back and went to the front, and that's where they left it. That sounds lovely. You want to play for a minute?
Sure.
But you know what, I would, no, sure, let's leave this down here. No, let's bring it up. Can you pick the end of it? Oh, thanks. There we go. Thanks. I'll just slide this over here a little bit so we're not with that thing. Do me a favor, and which one was that? That one? So, that way a little bit. Have a seat there. A little further so I can see. Good. Okay. Do me a favor and just hold your hand up like that for a second. Well, no, try this one because I'm over here and it's easier for me. It doesn't really matter which. Okay. When you learn how to access this, you're really just feeling. You're stepping into something that's very comprehensive. The Reiki frequencies, the Qigong, the Mahjong, the Beijing, the EFG, X, Y, Z, alpha, quantum, delta, this, that, and the other, they're all in there. But there's more. You don't have to send, you don't have to push. Just like a child, you play. So what I'm doing is, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you.
Sure.
Sean. So what I'm doing is, I'm just kind of watching Sean's hand, and I see when his thumb sort of moves up and down a little bit. So I notice what I feel when I see that, and I pull and I stretch with it. Now some movements are large and some are small, and I know the movement of the thumb isn't something that you're probably seeing past the first row or something. But I'm looking for something else. I'm not sending, I'm not pushing. My hand, my whole arm feels as if it's made out of styrofoam at this point. I push it down, it just kind of floats back up. And Sean, when I do this, you make me feel nothing. Or you make me feel something. I don't know, you tell me. A little tingle. Okay. Now, what I'm doing is I'm pulling further away. Does it stay the same or does it change? You're feeling it more than that. So in other words, as I'm pulling away, it got weaker, it got stronger. It got stronger. I never ask a question I don't know the answer to. This is not just energy healing. As we know, what do we know about energy? We know that energy gets weaker with distance. This does not. It becomes stronger. Has the characteristic of it stayed the same or changed?
The intensity is.
The intensity is changing. But if you were talking to a child and you wanted to describe it, not use nebulous words like energy or something, how would you describe what it felt like?
Oh, it's like someone squeezing together.
Like someone squeezing into the finger. How many of you can see what his ring finger does in that hand? How many of you saw the movement of his ring finger? Raise your hand so I can tell you. So I can get that angle. Okay. Well, we're going to play for a minute, but I wanted to get a better perspective. So I'm going to stand in front of you for 1 second. Do me a favor. Just take your arms straight out like this. Can you bring them on? Okay, good. Now, look at me, smile. Pretend you're having a good time. I just want to get a better perspective over here. Show me how high your arms are.
Wow.
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 Now, there's still a little angle off. Remember I was talking about that angle? Thanks. Okay, elbow. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I noticed, am I all right? You're all right? Yeah. That hand for a second. Can I just see that? I mean, I can tell where they tighten this tendon in here. I want to see something, so you can just relax. You can let that down. Just let your arm hang, kind of like it's an old coat in the closet. Just hang on my fingers for a minute. I just want to see something. That's good. You all right when I do that? Good. Let me take both your hands for 1 second. Good. Let them hang. Let them hang. That's all I want to see. Touch those together. No. Keep your, just open your fingers. That's good. So there's still a limitation here. What does that mean? I don't know. Okay? We don't know what is supposed to change and what's not supposed to change, but it sure looks a world different than it did before. Does it feel similar? Does it feel different? You tell me.
Yeah, it's less painful.
Okay, and it goes back 4 years later. Why the tendon was adjusted to the front and shortened the pull? I don't know. Can I focus on that? No. The less we know about what's going on with this person, the better off that person is, because the less likely we are with our limited conscious, human educated minds and our egos to determine what form the healing should or shouldn't take, what's possible and what isn't. Now, why did I pick on this person in 20 years in medical history? So let's see what happens from them. Let's see what happens there in the afternoon. But I want to share something with you. By the way, thanks, Sean, for coming up. I appreciate that. There was a wonderful film called Resurrection. Cecilia? There was a wonderful film called Resurrection with Ellen Burstyn. There was a remake in the 90s, don't see that. With Ellen Burstyn. And in it, the short version of this was that she died in the beginning, came back to life, found that she had the ability to bring about a healing for herself and healings for others. And at a certain point in time, she was living out in the middle of the country somewhere, and people from the surrounding neighborhoods were coming by, and she was doing healing sessions with them. You don't know what's going to happen. A woman was being carried up, I think, by her son. Was placed on a table. Ellen Burstyn's character was about to go over and do a healing, and just then the very well-meaning, friendly family doctor came over and pulled her aside and said, "Listen, don't get your hopes up on this one. I've seen her x-ray. She has total degeneration of her third and fourth and fifth lumbars. Don't expect anything." And Ellen Burstyn's response was, "Well, Doc, I haven't seen those pictures, so I'm one step ahead of you." Here's the brilliance in that. Normally, I wouldn't ask what the problem was, and I will teach you not to ask what the problem was, but I have to ask what the problem is when we're in a room such as this, because we are here to see. And sometimes it helps if we know what we're looking for. Sometimes it helps if we know what we're looking for. So, as these strange healings started going on, I figured I needed some information. I needed to find out what was going on here. It peaked when a patient of mine, who was a patient for a year and a half, but he'd gone away, came back into my office. When he left, I was just doing chiropractic. When he came back in, this had happened. I adjusted him. I told him to close his eyes. I held my hands by his head. And what I saw was this. His head jerked, his eyes rolled to the top of his head, his mouth opened, tongue began to move in a way that it was clearly forming vowels, and air would audibly escape from them. Looking and sounding something like this. Now, this was not confidence inspiring. As I moved my hands and I played, the air sounds would get louder, softer, louder, softer. I could tell that he was speaking, but I couldn't really hear anything. I actually brought my ear down to listen a little closer, and I did hear something then, but it wasn't from him. I used to say what I heard was the voice of our mothers that we all carry with us. And I'll change my mind. What I heard was the voice of my mother that we all carry with us. And she said, "What are you doing? Get your ear away from that crazy person before he bites it." So I can't tell you what it's like being struck funny and a little bit fear in the same, or awestruck at the same time, but it was just odd, and I had to stop because all my patients were waiting for me. So I touched him lightly on his chest. I said, "Fred, I think we're finished." And Fred jumped up off the table, and no, Fred opened his eyes. He looked at me, I looked at him. He didn't say anything, so I didn't say anything. You know, what am I going going to say, hey Fred, what's this? So he left. I thought about it a lot. He came back in later that week. I knew it was going to happen again, and it did. Except this time the air sound condensed itself into a voice that said, we are here to tell you to continue doing what you were doing. To continue doing what you were doing. What you're doing is bringing light and information onto the planet. This time, when I finished, because I had to get to my other patients, when I touched Fred, he jumped up off the table, went back to the wall, held his arms out, blocking the wall phone. Remember wall phones? Because he thought that I was going to call a mental hospital to have him taken away. And he explained to me that he had had a voice coming through him since he was a child, that only 2 people in his life knew about it. He didn't want anyone to find out about it. He felt something happening on his last visit with me, but thought I didn't notice anything. And this time it just sort of escaped. So I thought, all right, it's some unique Fred thing. And I just filed it away there. But 2 days later, it happened to 3 other patients. Their heads jerked, their eyes rolled, their mouth opened, their tongue moved, air came out, and I was not going to sit around and wait for double-blind controlled study. And on their next visit, they were going to speak. So I make phone calls to well-known people all around North America, and I finally get directed towards this woman in Beverly Hills who's supposed to be able to help me figure it out. So I called her up. She said, come over. And just come over, and I'll tell you what it is. And I thought, well, that'll make it really easy. She'll tell me what it is. How nice. So I show up at her place. I sit down on her sofa. And that was the end of normal. She gave me this piece of quartz crystal. You hold each of my hands, brought out this giant post